You know, you want to be comfortable, and you want to have friends, and you want to be like early days, being like short, being 5 feet tall. Danny DeVito just turned 80. But his life story is heartbreaking. His own mother admitted she never wanted him. His father turned violent every night when he drank. Police were called to their house 17 times before Danny was even 15. But that's not the worst part. Danny has been hiding a painful secret for decades, a rare condition that makes every day agony. Hollywood offered him millions to get surgery and change his face. He refused and burned the contract now at 80. The truth about his suffering is finally coming out. Danny DeVito's life didn't start easy. He was born in Neptune, New Jersey in 1944, and from the beginning the odds were stacked against him. His mother, Julia, was already 40 and had raised several children. She didn't want another years later. She admitted it openly. I didn't want him, but I'm so proud of him. That kind of confession could break anyone. But for Danny, it became fuel. That early feeling of rejection never left him, and he carried it like a shadow throughout his childhood. But instead of letting it weigh him down, he pushed forward. He wanted to prove he was worth something. But his struggles didn't stop there. At-home life was unpredictable. His father, Daniel Sr., was a kind man during the day. He owned a candy shop in Asbury Park and was well liked. But when night came and the alcohol kicked in, he turned into someone else, angry, loud, even violent. Danny learned to watch for signs, the sound of bottles. The way his dad's footsteps changed. Sometimes he hid in closets. Other times, he ran to the neighbors. Between 1950 and 1955, police were called to their house at least 17 times. These childhood experiences left deep marks. Years later, he stayed sober himself and even created a support program called Little Giants in 1992. It's helped over 15,000 kids from homes just like his get the support they need by the time he was 14. Danny knew he had to get out. His neighborhood was crumbling. Heroin was everywhere. 2 of his childhood friends were dead before turning 16. So he made a plan. He studied hard, saved $237 from small jobs, and convinced his parish priest to speak to his parents. He aimed for oratory prep school. His timing was careful. He asked his parents for permission only when his father was sober and guilty. His mother, feeling the weight of her past rejection, agreed. That decision likely saved his life. Out of 12 friends from that time, only 3 made it past 25 without ending up in prison or hooked on drugs. There was something else to Danny. Had a rare genetic condition called Fairbanks disease. That's why he only grew to 4 feet 10 inches. But it wasn't just about height. It hurt a lot. His hips, knees, and back constantly ached in his 20s and 30s. His pain level often hovered around 6 to 8 out of 10. Still, he didn't quit. He did his own stunts. He even collapsed 4 times while filming. One flew over the cuckoo's nest and pretended. It was just part of the role. He never got hooked on pain meds, even though doctors offered them. And quietly, he donated over $12 million to help fund treatments for others with bone conditions like his. He never put his name on the projects. He didn't want attention. He just wanted others to suffer less before acting. He had another job. One most fans don't expect. He was a beautician. He trained for it, put in 1,500 hours, graduated second in his class at beauty school. He worked in his sister Angela's salon called Curl Up and Die. He got so good at it, people booked appointments months in advance. He even won awards for a hairstyle called the Neptune twist. He took it seriously, even if he started just to meet girls one day while doing a client's hair. Her husband, a theater producer, told Danny to audition for a play. That's how it all started. Danny didn't dream of being an actor. In 1962, he applied to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts to learn makeup. They asked him to do a monologue, and though he had no experience, he gave it a shot. He performed a scene from The Rainmaker. Something clicked. They offered him a spot, not for makeup, but for acting. He didn't say yes right away. He went back to the salon, but 3 days later the school called again and offered him a partial scholarship. That second call changed his life a few years later. He was living in New York with a roommate, Michael Douglas. They shared a tiny apartment with cockroaches, barely any heat, and a $75 rent. They could hardly afford. Douglas kept quiet about being Kirk Douglas's son. They ate canned beans and stale bread one time. They spent their last $27 printing headshots and delivering them across the city, while Douglas booked some roles. Danny kept getting rejected, but the bond stayed years later. Douglas asked for Danny to be cast in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. That's the role that changed everything before that big break. Danny faced brutal years in Hollywood between 1967 and 1970. He auditioned 248 times. He got just 3 small gigs, earning less than $800 total to survive. He took strange jobs, parking cars, standing still like a mannequin in a clothing store, and even cleaning cages at the LA Zoo for $1.85 an hour. He read lines to chimpanzees just to keep his skills sharp for a time. He lived in his old VW Beetle. He showered at the YMCA and ate at soup kitchens. He kept that story to himself for decades. Hollywood wanted to change him. Producers and agents told him to get surgery. Some suggested breaking and lengthening his legs. Others wanted to reshape his face. One studio even offered him nearly $1 million in today's money if he went through with it. He said no. In fact, he burned the contract in a beach bonfire. He refused to become someone else for fame. His response to a casting director stuck with him for years. "I'd rather be a first-rate version of myself than a second-rate version of someone else." His early roles paid little and came with more struggle. His first off-Broadway show paid $25 a week. He worked overnight shifts at a printing press just to afford rent during that show. He was dealing with deep depression. He almost quit his first movie, paid him just over $200, and he got pneumonia filming in freezing water. He even slept in a barn to save money. His father got sick in 1972, and Danny couldn't go home much when his father died. It crushed him. He applied for a postal job and thought of giving up acting, but on the same day, he got that offer letter. The phone rang. It was about an audition for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. That moment changed everything. The pain, the poverty, the rejection, it all led to that one chance, and he took it. His former roommate, Michael Douglas, just happened to be the producer, even crazier. DeVito had already played the same character, Martini, years earlier in a stage version. So when the casting team was unsure, he was already fully prepared. The movie was filmed inside a real mental hospital, and the cast even included real patients as extras. The setting was intense. That helped DeVito bring something raw to his performance. He was only on screen for 5 minutes and 52 seconds. But he left a mark. Director Milos Forman stood by him even when the studio wanted a bigger name. The film went on to win 5 major Oscars, and while DeVito didn't get nominated, he was finally on the map then. In 1978, DeVito made a choice that most people thought was insane. He gave up 3 movie roles to audition for a TV sitcom called Taxi. His own agent told him not to do it. Everyone in Hollywood said switching from film to television was career suicide, but DeVito trusted his gut when he read the script. He knew he had to play the character. Louis De Palma, during the audition, he didn't just read lines. He performed a full 7-minute monologue that left everyone stunned. ABC was nervous about his short height, just 4 feet 10 inches, but creator James L. Brooks threatened to quit if they didn't cast him. That's how much he believed in DeVito. Danny didn't even negotiate for more money. He signed the contract right away, even though it paid 40% less than what other actors were making. And just like that, everything changed before Taxi. He had been rejected from nearly 200 auditions in 3 years. Casting directors kept telling him he was too short, too strange-looking, too different. But once the show aired, he became a sensation. Within 8 episodes, he received more than 11,000 fan letters. That was unheard of, especially for a supporting character. Louis De Palma wasn't just funny. He was nasty, rude, and unapologetically awful, and people loved it. Censors got between 3 to 5 complaint letters every single episode just because of Louis's lines. DeVito would prepare for each scene by sitting alone, silently listing all the people who had ever rejected him. That anger, that energy, it went straight into the performance, and it worked by 1980. 93% of Americans could recognize Louis De Palma just from his voice or outline his dispatch booth. Built to match DeVito's size, became one of the most iconic sets in TV history. Then came the awards in 1980. DeVito won a Golden Globe a year later. He won an Emmy. It shocked everyone. Louis De Palma wasn't a typical hero or even a likable character, but people couldn't look away. The Emmy win was especially sweet because DeVito had been ignored during the show's first season when he finally got his trophy. He just said 12 words. "Thank you. I'm really happy about this. Taxi is the best show on television." It became the shortest acceptance speech in Emmy history. That same year, Vegas betting sites had Jack Albertson as the favorite to win the Golden Globe. DeVito beat him behind the scenes. Some judges didn't even want to nominate him. They thought his character was too awful to reward. But his win changed everything. It proved that audiences could love villains too. That idea shaped TV for decades. NBC even tried to poach him, offering him $175,000 per episode to do his own show that was more than 11 times what he was earning. He said no. He wanted to stay loyal to the Taxi cast, somewhere in the middle of all that success. DeVito met Rhea Perlman, and it happened in a weird way. She was actually dating DeVito's roommate, and came over to break up with him. That's when she met Danny. They talked for 6 hours. That night, DeVito later said he knew within 22 minutes that he wanted to marry her. A year later, Perlman joined Taxi to play Louis's girlfriend. The producers didn't even know they were dating in real life. Their chemistry was so real that everyone thought it was just great acting. They secretly moved in together after only 2 weeks, cramming into Danny's tiny 450-square-foot apartment. Even after they got married in 1992, they kept separate dressing rooms on set to avoid any favoritism. What most people don't know is that they were also working together behind the scenes in 1983. They quietly started Jersey Films, their own production company. They did it at night and on weekends, while still filming Taxi over 40 years later. They've been in 17 projects together and even created a rule: they'd never go more than 2 weeks without working on something creative as a team. Once Taxi ended in 1983, DeVito did something most TV actors couldn't pull off. He made the jump to film successfully. That same year, he landed a role in Terms of Endearment, which won Best Picture at the Oscars. In 1984, he stole scenes in Romancing the Stone, which made over $115 million on just a $10 million budget. He teamed up with Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner, again for the sequel, The Jewel of the Nile. Around the same time, he took a smaller role in Johnny Dangerously, just to stay visible on screen. He was making smart moves, stacking up film credits while building momentum. But in 1986, he went full villain in Ruthless People. He played a greedy man who refuses to pay ransom after his wife is kidnapped, and people loved it. The movie cost $7.5 million and earned over $71 million. DeVito got a Golden Globe nomination. His performance was so wild it became the centerpiece of the entire film. He wasn't afraid to be hated. That confidence opened more doors in 1987. DeVito made his directorial debut with Throw Mama from the Train. He told the producers he'd only act in it if he could also direct. He won. The filming locations were carefully chosen all over Los Angeles. He even tried to get Brian De Palma to appear in the film. But scheduling didn't work out, and Ramsey, who played Mama, did many of her own stunts. Even after surgery and the bruises she got didn't stop her. The final train scene took 6 days to shoot and was filmed using a private track in Valencia. The movie earned DeVito critical praise and another Golden Globe nomination. Then, in 1988, came Twins. The idea was wild, paired DeVito with Arnold Schwarzenegger as long-lost twins. It sounded like a joke, but it worked. The two stars, along with director Ivan Reitman, took no upfront salary instead. They made a deal to split 40% of the profits. It was a huge risk, but it paid off. The film made $216 million worldwide, which would be over $500 million today. Each man earned around $35 to $40 million. That movie changed how people saw DeVito. He was no longer just a weird supporting actor. He was a leading man. He proved that you didn't need to be tall or handsome to carry a movie. You just had to be good while everyone was watching his acting career. DeVito was also building something behind the scenes. He had already directed a TV movie called The Ratings Game in 1984. He directed an episode of Amazing Stories in 1986, working with Rhea again. And in 1989, he brought back his Romancing the Stone co-stars for The War of the Roses. The story was brutal, funny, and hit close to home for many in Germany. The title even became a slang term for nasty divorces. DeVito's style. Funny, strange, and emotional stood out. Even the opening credits. Created by design legends Saul and Elaine Bass. Showed the film was something special. It wasn't just a hit. It showed DeVito could balance acting and directing without losing focus. Then came 1992 that year. DeVito transformed completely to play the Penguin in Batman Returns. With Tim Burton directing, he went full method, sitting for hours in makeup to become the twisted villain Oswald Cobblepot. It wasn't just a costume. DeVito's performance was wild, creepy, and kind of tragic. Fans loved it. He was even nominated for Best Villain at the MTV Movie Awards years later. He said he'd gladly play the Penguin again if Burton came back, too. But DeVito didn't stop there that same year. He directed Hoffa, a serious film about labor leader Jimmy Hoffa. Jack Nicholson played Hoffa, and DeVito directed and acted alongside him. It was a bold shift from comedy. He worked with famous writer David Mamet and made a movie filled with speeches, anger, and power struggles. One line in the trailer summed it up. "We're going to march and get what we came down here for." This was DeVito showing he could take on big, tough stories and do it. Well, also in 1992, DeVito took a new path. He started his own production company called Jersey Films. It wasn't just a vanity move. He teamed up with Michael Shamberg and later Stacy Cher. Together, they built one of the most powerful indie studios of the 1990s. DeVito wanted to find great scripts and help turn them into real films, and he did. Jersey Films would go on to change the industry in 1994. They took a huge risk on a wild script. That movie was Pulp Fiction. Tarantino had written something dark, strange, and totally original. When one studio passed on it, Jersey Films kept it alive. They gave Tarantino's company money and office space. The whole budget was just $8 million. Tarantino promised it would look like a $25 million movie, and he kept that promise. It hit theaters in October 1994. After a premiere at Cannes, it became a classic and proved DeVito had an eye for bold, game-changing work in 1996. DeVito directed Matilda, a movie based on Roald Dahl's book. He played Matilda's awful father and cast his wife, Rhea Perlman, as her mother. What made it special wasn't just the movie. It was what happened behind the scenes. The young star Mara Wilson was dealing with her mother's cancer. DeVito and Perlman cared for her like family. DeVito even brought a near-final cut of the film to the hospital, so her mother could see it before she passed away. Wilson would later say they felt like her favorite aunt and uncle Jersey. Films kept making unique movies. In 1999, they released Man on the Moon, a film about comedian Andy Kaufman. DeVito had worked with Kaufman on Taxi years earlier this time. He played Kaufman's manager and helped produce the film. Jim Carrey gave a powerful performance, completely becoming Kaufman. Critics praised it, but it didn't do well at the box office. Still, DeVito stood by the movie. He cared more about the story than the money. During all this success, DeVito was hiding a painful secret. He had Fairbanks disease, a rare bone disorder that caused constant pain. He had surgery after surgery, but the pain always came back. Hollywood told him to keep it quiet. They said if he looked weak, he'd lose work. So he kept going, even when it hurt to stand. During his time on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, he would act through the pain, then collapse off camera. He finally spoke out in 2025. Tired of staying silent, he wanted doctors to take the disease seriously, not just for him, but for others who live in pain with no help. In 2015, DeVito and Perlman sold their Beverly Hills home. They had owned it since 1994. It was massive, 14,579 square feet on 2 acres, with a wine cellar, gym, art studio, and 2 pools. It had everything. But by then, their 3 kids, Lucy, Grace, and Jake, were grown. The sale wasn't just about money. It marked the end of an era for their family. In 2006, at age 62, DeVito joined the cast of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. At first, the network didn't want him. They thought he was too famous. But show creator Rob McElhenney fought hard to bring him in, and it worked. Ratings jumped by 227%. DeVito didn't take a huge paycheck either, just $70,000 per episode, even though he'd made 10 times that in his prime by 2010. Young viewers knew him more for Frank Reynolds than anything else. DeVito wasn't afraid to go all in for laughs. In 2007. During one episode, he covered himself in hand sanitizer and slid naked across the floor. That wasn't in the script. It became a legendary moment in another. He popped out of a couch in full sweat-soaked makeup. He got a rash, but kept going. In 2016. He even bathed in trash water when someone asked if it was too much. He said, "At my age, vanity is just another word for missed opportunity." But behind the scenes, the pain never stopped. In 2008, doctors found he had serious disc damage in his back. By 2010, nearly half his filming days were spent in extreme pain. His mornings started at 4:30 a.m. with 4 hours of therapy. He bounced on a tiny trampoline, took hot and cold baths, and even hung upside down in his trailer for one water slide scene. In 2011, he needed 19 takes and ended up with broken blood vessels in his eye. But the scene made it into the final cut in 2012. DeVito and Perlman separated after 30 years of marriage. It shocked everyone. But the cracks had started in 2011, when DeVito was working long days and rumors swirled about a friendship with a much younger woman on set. They went to therapy 38 sessions, but couldn't fix it. Then in 2013, they were seen holding hands again. He had rented out the same place. They had their first date. They tried again and stayed together for 4 more years before splitting for good in 2017. even after the second separation. They never divorced. They worked out a deal to split their fortune without going to court in 2019. DeVito bought a house less than a mile from Perlman's. They still talked every Wednesday and Sunday. Every month, they met at the same restaurant, at the same table, just like old times. Their son once said they still shared a Netflix account and even texted each other while watching the same shows from different houses in July 2023. DeVito donated $500,000 to a hospital in New Jersey. Not just any hospital. This was the one he was born in, back when it was called Raleigh Fitkin Paul Morgan Memorial. Now, it's the Jersey Shore University Medical Center. The $500,000 donation wasn't a publicity stunt. It was a way of giving back. The hospital had just been ranked among the top 5% in the nation for clinical care. DeVito's gift helped fund its most urgent patient needs. Robert Garrett, the CEO of Hackensack Meridian Health, praised him for understanding the true power of giving. Even his old friend Peter Cancro, the founder of Jersey, Mike's Subs, said that DeVito genuinely cared about healthcare and wanted to make a real difference. For years, Danny DeVito has used his fame to speak up, not just about the environment or healthcare, but politics too. And while he's never been shy about what he believes some people say, it's cost him. There's no hard proof, but rumors have been floating around. According to one recent video, DeVito's honesty has rubbed certain Hollywood insiders the wrong way. The same video suggests that when he began opening up about his physical condition, Fairbanks disease, a rare disorder that affects bone growth, he was quietly pushed out of some roles, it said. He started speaking out for others with disabilities, asking why Hollywood still clings to narrow standards of beauty. The video even claims that producers pressured him to get experimental treatments to look more normal. None of this has been confirmed by reliable sources, but the idea makes you wonder, how much does honesty really cost in showbiz? His support for children's hospitals treating bone disorders has become a personal mission. Living with Fairbanks disease isn't easy. It causes joint pain, stiffness, and early onset arthritis. DeVito reportedly kept this hidden for years, pushing through the pain as he continued acting, directing, and producing. Recently, though, he started talking about it, not just for himself, but for kids who can't afford treatment or don't have anyone to speak up for them. He wants more research, he wants better care, and he wants Hollywood to stop pretending that only one kind of body belongs on screen. But not everything has gone smoothly in May 2025. Danny DeVito made headlines again, but this time for a different reason. He appeared on Jimmy Kimmel Live, and what started as a regular interview quickly turned into a firestorm. At first, it was all jokes and smiles, but by the second segment, things got tense. No one knows exactly what triggered it, but the argument that followed was heated enough that DeVito left the set. Security had to step in, not to escort him out, but to keep things from getting worse. The moment went viral. Clips flooded social media, and hashtags like Old Danny V's Kimmel and Old DeVito Unleashed were everywhere. The internet exploded with opinions. Some people cheered him on. They saw it as a rare, raw moment in a world full of fake smiles and scripted lines. Others weren't so kind. They called it a meltdown, said he was being unprofessional. The debate got even louder when other comedians joined in. Bill Burr defended him, saying that actors are often pushed too far. Stephen Colbert and Seth Meyers cracked jokes about the whole thing on their shows. Suddenly, this wasn't just an awkward interview. It was a pop culture event. DeVito didn't stay quiet for long. A few days later, he posted a message online. "No, apologies, just honesty. I stand by everything I said," he wrote. "Sometimes the truth isn't easy to hear, especially under the lights." The post only fueled the fire. Reports started coming out that some of his upcoming appearances had been canceled or postponed. No official word. But whispers of a quiet blacklisting began to spread. Jimmy Kimmel, trying to smooth things over, made a statement of his own. "I have nothing but respect for Danny. I hope we can laugh about this one day." But the damage, or the legend, was already done. Even with all the noise, Danny DeVito hasn't faded. He's still working, still creating. At 79, he's producing a sports docuseries called Game 7 for Prime Video. It's a family project. His kids Jake and Lucy are co-producing. DeVito says he's a sports fan in his own weird way. It's a different kind of show for him, but that's part of his appeal. He never stays in one box. And of course, there's It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He's been playing Frank Reynolds since season 2, back in 2005. The show was struggling then, and DeVito's arrival turned things around. His chaotic energy and perfect timing helped make it a cult hit now, almost 20 years later. He's still there, scheming, yelling, crawling out of couches and audiences. Still love him, you.